at the weekend, though, Jem, were Arsenal that good, or were you terrible? Or could it be both? Like, how do you look at it from a Chelsea fan's point of view in isolation to this game?
Number one, if Arsenal were that good with their strongest team on paper, with up against this Chelsea team with about 6 injuries in it, all right, people can say it's no excuses, but when you're missing people like Reece James, Ben Chilwell, Wesley Fofana, Kante, Kovacic, these are all starting 11 players. Let's not forget about them. Yeah, this is an Arsenal team that came to the bridge, that had control of it. Fair enough, I get that. Had 14 shots, but only 2 on target, and we had 1. So you only had 1 more shot on target than we did. And you're saying you walked over there and bossed us with loads of whatever. Yeah, you did. Don't get me wrong. In terms of the final third from our prospect, there was nothing. There was nothing from that side of it. I get that. You controlled the game because we had no real flow in sort of how we approached the game. And why I say that is because he took a big risk in playing the back four against you guys. And we had this conversation before ago where I said he either does that or he goes and plays the back three, and that does give us a bit more control in terms of possession. He goes with the back four. Our midfield got overrun. I thought Partey and Xhaka played very well. And our forward line was non-existent. I'm talking from Mount to Havertz to Aubameyang and whatever else. However, Martinelli didn't really, what I think, offer too much against an old declining Azpilicueta. They didn't beat him many times down the wing. Saka dived a couple of times in the game. I was there. I was at the bridge. I was on the Matthew Arden stand, sitting right in that area that he was playing, coming towards me in the first half. The amount of dives that he took on the floor because he couldn't get past Cucurella and won the free kicks is, well, fair enough. It's part of football. But what I'm trying to get at, this is the Arsenal, right? This is the best of what Arsenal can offer. This is their best team, that they can put forward. Fair enough. Granted, you've had no injuries like the likes that we have as well. I'm just not sure with Arsenal, from a consistent basis, how long you can continue doing that. And the reason I say that is because Chelsea were top of the league in December last season, was 7 points ahead of Man City. We went into that December period, we picked up a couple of injuries, and by January the 3rd, when we played Liverpool on the back of playing Man City, we found ourselves in third. And that was to do with injuries, and that was also to do with the amount of games we played and the consistency part of it. My thing with Arsenal is you're doing it now, and you deserve to be where you are. I think you've been great up to this point. However, to say that they're in a title charge is well too early for me. And that's all I've got to say on Arsenal. In terms of Chelsea, go on. I'll talk about Chelsea after. Go on and go.
No. Go ahead. I want to hear what you got to say about Chelsea because I was going to dig out your players, but if you're going to do it yourself,
I just wanted to add something on Chelsea because I can't lie, he did do a whole lot of deflecting there. Because one thing you didn't address is how have you not beaten your rivals at your home ground in 3 years? It's embarrassing.
Yeah, it's
the
bridge is a problem.
You come to your ground and made it their home. They made it their home for 3 years. And
they haven't beaten us in 5 years. They haven't beaten us in 5 years.
And let's be honest. Let's be honest here, Jem. Everyone looked at this game, and although you're saying Arsenal didn't play that good, everyone knew Arsenal was going to get the win. No one doubted at one point that Arsenal was about how many and pick up the result. And it shows how bad you guys are. You guys just got exposed further again because Potter thinks he's playing Football Manager. He thinks you can chop and change a lineup and the formation and the tactics every other game, going into big games, and think that he's going to get a result, and it's not happening. And all this blame on injuries and so on. Yes, you do have injuries, just like we all did. And like Cal said earlier, apparently we can't make excuses for it because every team does, which is rightly so in that. So you guys have got some injuries, but it's exposed your depth. No matter how much money you've spent, your team and the lack of good depth that you have is really poor. You're still relying on Loftus-Cheek after 6 or 7 years. How many managers have tried him out and just given up because he's just not there? He's not ready for the races. And how many times is he going to get a chance?
1 second. I want to rebuttal to what you said before you dig out your players because I know you're going to have to do that eventually because you had shockers all over the pitch.
Talk about Chelsea soon, yes.
Yeah. But when you speak about injuries, you must mean only long-term injuries because this Arsenal team itself, throughout this whole time period, throughout this season campaign where we've been winning games and doing well in the league, we've had a lot of injuries to our first team players. You look at Granit Xhaka has probably been one of our only mainstays in that midfield, but Zinchenko's been injured. You've had Tierney's been injured. Tomiyasu's been injured. You've had Partey who's been injured. You've had a bunch of fringe players also injured. And you go into the team and you can see that there's been over like around 8 to 10 injuries in the team. So yes, you might have injuries, but everybody has injuries. That's one.
Well, we have them long term. Yours are short.
One second. Then you said shots. Bro, you did not have any significant shots in this game at all to threaten our goal. And for you to say one shot, we absolutely dominated you guys, played like the home team, outpossessed you, and kept you parked in your half. Then you said you spoke about the back four. I understand that you played a back four, and it was very silly to play that lineup because I seen the lineup and immediately I messaged people like Anita and I said, you can't be serious when you're saying you're gonna win. She's like, oh no. Anyways, I'm not gonna say what she said behind the scenes. But yeah, when it comes to the final thing,
you just mentioned Anita and shit yourself, didn't you?
He himself. Anita's on big things, you know, bro. You maybe
one second. I'm not gonna go
above. AJ's coming for you, my bro.
Listen. My point is she's level-headed. She's level-headed. Anyways, Jem, my main point, the final thing, when you said the whole challenge, I agree with you to a certain degree. I don't know how far we're gonna take this. We still need to strengthen, but that's not the point. The game yesterday showed that we are levels ahead of you right now, in the sense that the way that we're playing, yes, you have injuries, yes, you have issues going around the whole pitch, but in the midfield, in attack, and in defense, we are superior to Chelsea Football Club. And I genuinely believe you are closer to Newcastle, and maybe Newcastle even better than you at this moment in time. That's the level you're currently at. You're not at Arsenal's level.
This took you 4 years to even get up to this, so that's number one.
Hey, it doesn't matter how long it took us.
You've been up there for that long.
You've had one good. Arsenal's a much better team than your team. That's the reality.
Yeah, it is. That's true, and I can agree with that because the table doesn't lie. The table don't lie on that. But in terms of Chelsea, for me, it's like, it's just understanding where your club is, and I do feel we're in a transition. I even said this even over the summer window. We're bringing Sterling, bringing Koulibaly, we're bringing Fofana. Don't get me wrong, they're great players, but Chelsea need a real overhaul. And when you look at the crop of players that go back to not only Tuchel, but all the way to Sarri still, and managers are coming in and being given these crop of players, they're kind of being asked to make things work, and they want to do and implement the systems that they want to implement. Problem is when you come to Chelsea, especially in the way that we do it, and this is why I slightly disagree with the sacking of Thomas Tuchel, is that you sack Thomas Tuchel on the back of backing him over a summer window. This was his first summer window to actually show some backing. You give him the backing, and then they decide to pull the plug. Now, for whatever reasons the ball decided to pull the plug, I think it was due to lack of communication between the two. But I think they're trying to find the project manager. The project manager is someone that they can bring in and give the chance. Now, they feel that Graham Potter's that guy. The problem with Graham Potter is that we don't really have any expectations of the guy, because you look at him and he comes from Brighton. He hasn't got real experience, and it's hard to know what he's going to do compared to like someone like a Thomas Tuchel, who has got that sort of world-class sort of CV when you look at it.
So you are in a rebuild. I agree with that.
So part of the reason, going back to the whole thing with transition, is that when you watch Chelsea, and I keep telling Chelsea fans, is that we will win, draw, and lose games through this season. And the reason that does happen is that, for me, is that some of the players that are in the team in certain positions find it hard to specifically play at the level that they need to do game in, game out. And parts of the reason that happens is because some of them are so limited in the way that they can play. So what Potter's got a problem with at the moment is that he has to rotate. But like Man United, I think we're kind of in the same issue as Man United. We have to rotate. Not only have we had injuries, but we have to rotate because of the number of games we're playing. But giving these guys the opportunity to play, but then playing them in a position that don't sometimes specifically suit them, actually ends up hindering what we're trying to do. And that's why I told him you're not going to see much difference between Thomas Tuchel and Graham Potter. You are not getting Potterable. Who else
said this on the top six, Terry?
You're not getting Potterable this season. It's not happening. So this thing of managers coming in and we're going to see great football from Chelsea, it's not going to happen until we address certain specific areas in our team. And there's so many areas for me that we need to sort out. And that's why we're going to lose games.
I love Jem, man. Jem, I can't get at you. Where's David? Bring me David. David laughed at me on the
show. One second. It's that they're so reactionary that when we lose a game, their mindset is still installed to think that we're in the Roman era. We're not in the Roman era anymore. What they need to see is that from Bowley, who is in the unknown, and I'm talking about the unknown in terms of us as Chelsea fans knowing what they want to do and their philosophy moving forward, along with the manager that they've brought in, deserve time. They have to be given the time. Whether you like it or not, they're going to be it. So
it's not even just, but you are right. It's not even just on the Potter side of things. Chelsea fans are struggling because you are seeing the sort of the burning embers going out of the Roman Empire as you're building something new. And this is the argument that I had with Lee Gunner about just when the sanctions happened, that Chelsea was still winning some trophies. Okay, so you won the Champions League, which is massive. You haven't been in a title race for 5 going on 6 years. If you look, and I always go back to this point, I'm going to keep drumming it home. You look at Chelsea pre-FFP and post-FFP. If you look at Chelsea pre-new TV deal money in 2014 and after that, the level of title runs and trophies you've won has diminished massively because you weren't running on a consistent basis. The chopping and changing of managers, just throwing money at it doesn't work. United have proven that. There has to be a plan behind that money, which is what City have done so brilliantly well. Newcastle have already started off in that way. The feeling around the club is important. What Chelsea are going through is that transition. And that's why I've said before, I still think Chelsea will build something very strong and very good. It's just going to take a couple of years to clear out all the old habits, the people, the players, and rebuild new. What Todd Bowley, though, and Potter have got to do is, and this is where it's going to be hard, the younger Chelsea fans who started supporting the club in the Roman era, this is a whole new world for them. They are not used to it. This is going to be where it's very hard to adjust and chop and change. It's like the United fans that only ever knew success. The slightly older ones, my age and above, started supporting in the 80s when we weren't a good team. That's the irony of calling me a glory hunter. When I supported us, we were 30 years almost without a league title. And we were kind of used to not winning things. When, you know, I was just at the back end of that, but the slightly older fans that I knew that supported United hadn't seen us lift trophies for years, if that made sense. And I think that in the league title for nearly 3 decades, and I think Chelsea fans have got to adapt to the fact that it's going to take time to build 100%. What they're trying to do. They're trying to build new infrastructures, new styles of football. You've probably got a number of players in that dressing room that don't want to work Graham Potter style, which is very hard working. They're almost like, maybe it was a bit easier under Tuchel. Maybe it was a bit easier under Frank Lampard. He's also going through what United went through. That he's got a squad that's been made up, and the early situation with Klopp, the early situation with Arteta. He's got a squad that's made up of 3 or 4 managers, players, philosophies, and styles. It's going to take time to clear all that out and really get it working. And you'll have some moments where you win 5, 6, 7 on the bounce. When you started off unbeaten in 9, looking good, and then it dips like Man United are doing, and even Newcastle are looking good. They'll have some dips this year because of squad depth and everything else. That's part of a rebuild and getting used to it. My one concern for it is Chelsea fans not allowing it to happen. Throwing baby out with the bathwater. And I say concern, if you guys never rebuild to anything great, I'm happy about that because Chelsea being great again is not good for any of us. But I think Chelsea fans will be the biggest stumbling block in this by not allowing their club to work and creating knee-jerk reactions that upset the apple cart. You guys have got to stay patient with your club.
Let me just say quickly, I think obviously James said that you're not going to see Potter ball right away. This is Quidditch ball because that was not football out there. I don't know what you lot would do. It was awful. That is one of the worst games I've ever seen Chelsea play at Stamford Bridge, and there's been some bad games. At one point, you were lumping the ball up to 5'3" Raheem Sterling like he was Peter Crouch, and this was Stoke under Pulis. It was bad. I said, Chelsea are a bad. What I could say was Chelsea are a bad team. Like they are a bad. You had a few results where you beat AC Milan home and away, and it looked like No, I wasn't sold. I wasn't sold at the time, and I'm still not sold now. It's nothing against Potter. I think the job was too soon. And I say too soon, not in terms of experience, but the leap from Brighton. And people get gassed about Brighton, and well done, did good at Brighton. Eddie Howe did a very good job at Bournemouth. Some fans may not understand. They might have been younger at the time. I don't know. But Eddie Howe did a very good job at Bournemouth. He did not go into a top 6, top 4 Champions League job straight away after that. He's at Newcastle, who are building to try and get there. He may not even be the one who's going to get them into the Champions League and win the major trophies. Brendan Rodgers done a very good job at Swansea. He went to Liverpool, nearly won the league, granted. But in all intents and purposes, he was out of his depth, because if he wasn't, you wouldn't have fell off in the way that you did after nearly winning the title. It was a bit of a freak season in the way that Liverpool kind of challenged Man City. I think it's too soon for Potter, depending on what you want. If you're going to say we're going to give him 5 years, whether you're out of the Champions League for 3 years, cool. It might work after 5 years. But if your plan is to get back in the Champions League straight away, it might not happen. And we spoke about this, I think it was last week or the last time I was on anyway. Gal was here and we said, basically, can Man United challenge for the top 4? And my answer was, at the start of the season, I didn't have us in. I still don't have us in directly. But because of how Liverpool have started the season, the way that Tottenham's form is going, and Chelsea's issues, they sacked a manager straight after the transfer window. We are in a position where we can capitalize. I'm not saying we will. There's not much difference between Man United and Chelsea right now, other than expectations. We started the season expecting Chelsea to be in the top 4. We did not expect Man United to be in the top 4. But right now, in terms of inconsistency, in terms of project, etc., I'm not sold on this Chelsea team. I'm not sold on this Chelsea team on the Potter. I'm not sold on Todd Bowley. I think Roman is the best thing that's happened to Chelsea, well, factually, in my lifetime. And I think there was reasons why Chelsea fans were concerned when he was when he had to lose the ownership of Chelsea and when Tuchel was sacked. I don't know what to make of Chelsea this year, and I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't get top 4. I think they're in the race.
That's my problem with
the players, but you could easily miss out, and that would be a big L.
My biggest issue with all of this is that we're sitting here having a judgment on an owner and a manager who's only been here, since the sanctions, a couple of months, over 6-7 months now. So we're making judgments on things that we're not actually fully sure on yet, because we don't know what we're going to do or how we're going to go, or how Bowley's going to react. You could really see that with Chelsea. They're trying to put the puzzles together behind closed doors with the people that are coming in through the hierarchy, the board, and what they're trying to do there, right? The problem we got is we can't fully see the image of what we want to do moving forward. And I get you having your judgment and saying,
but it's kind of blind faith there, because you kind of don't know.
Your judgment? What we're saying is, what is your judgment based on? Because it's well too early to be talking about Chelsea and judgments.
No, but I'm saying I'm not sold on it. Like there's nothing has happened so far that says, I can see that this will be successful if it works. I think Graham Potter could be there for 5 years and it still not be successful. It's not like Klopp came in and you're like, I know what he done at Dortmund. If you give him time, he can build that. I know what Ten Hag's done at Ajax. I think it's right now. It's like if you're judging Chelsea or you're predicting Chelsea, either way, it's a stab in the dark.
No,
it could be bad, could be good.
I get that.
Really know.
I want to go.